All right, guys. My name is Jerry. Here with On Par. This is an X15 single cam. I'll probably do a video on valve lash also. Everybody kind of knows how to do valve lash, but I'll do one on valve lash probably tomorrow. If we got time today, we might do a video on valve lash. Right now, we're gonna do cam timing and idler gear, mesh and lash. I'm going to tell you how Cummins expect you to do it, and then I'm going to tell you the way I do it, what I've been doing for the last while. And don't expect to get this the first time around. Sometimes you got to, pull back apart and do it again. I would advise you to not put everything back on before you start it. You probably want to start it before you start putting everything back on, the radiator and everything like that. So let's get into it. On the higher horsepower engines, there's a spring gear here that you got to back off when you set timing and when you pull any idler or any gears on the timing. So we just did a head on this truck, and we used an AFA new camshaft and AFA engine kit. Company we've been using, it's a aftermarket brand. It's been holding up pretty good, got a good warranty on it. And so this is a new AFA camshaft, and we got it locked in right now. I'll take the valve cover off and I'll show you. On this valve cover, you'll see there's a timing code right here, and it says 6. Okay, so all these valve covers will say what it's supposed to be. I haven't honestly ran into a single cam that's been anything different. I'm sure some of the high horsepower engines might be different, but this is a 6 wedge, and it fits inside here, this pocket right here, and it goes inside and it holds the cam on a specific spot, so that your timing gear is going to be the exact same spot for the camshaft where it needs to be. And then you have a pin down here on the engine. You got to take a plug out and put a pin. The green, that one's probably not painted very well anymore, but you just spin the engine over until it says insert pin right here, and then you're going to put that pin in. That's going to put you to where you can time this engine and put it together exactly how it needs to be, and still be in time. So this engine is a lower horsepower. It's called the efficiency series engine. So I don't have to worry about a spring gear on this engine. They're easier to set timing on, easier to do lash. There's not a dampener. The springs are for dampening, so I don't have to worry about that on this engine right here. So we'll get right into it. So we got our wedge in here already, and our camshaft nose is brand new, so we didn't have to clean it. We just brake cleaned it off. New seals have been putting on here on the back side of the cam and the idler. Okay, and this camshaft's already clean, so you don't want any residue. If say you're taking this apart and it's a camshaft that has Loctite 609 on it, that's the compound you use to make sure this, because this is a slip fit. It's see right here, there's no keyway on this cam gear. Okay, so there's nothing that holds this together except for the bolt that's torqued on and the 609, which is retaining compound. Okay, that's what you use for the cam, and that's per Cummins. That's what Cummins wants you to use too. Cummins doesn't ask you to use blue Loctite on anything, but just for extra precautions, I always put a little bit of Loctite on these bolts, and I put a little bit of Loctite on my cam bolt. So that's just to ensure that nothing comes loose later on. You don't want to be a catastrophic failure if something came apart like that. So I'm gonna go over here and get the cam gear. This is your tone wheel right here. This says on here when you're pulling these apart, okay, do not remove these. You'll never get it back where you want them. You only touch the middle bolt. Okay, the older ones used to, it says right there, do not remove. So you're not supposed to remove that. You're only supposed to remove the inner bolt. So what I do is, this is perfectly cleaned. It's been perfectly cleaned, all the residues off of it. There's no oil on it. It's just perfectly clean. I'm gonna take some 609, and this is how I do it. Stick it up here, put a little 609 on here, and then all I do is I just turn it and kind of get it all the way around. That's probably enough. That's probably plenty right there. So you don't need any more than that, because it's just gonna all squeeze out and you have to clean it up later. But you want to get it all around there. And then you're gonna stick this up here. I like to have my idler gear already up here. You're gonna stick this up here and you're gonna set it on there. Then I take a rag, any extra, I'm gonna take off the rag. Now, this compound's designed that when you put pressure on it is whenever it sets up. So right now I can slide it and slip it all around, but there's no pressure on it yet. So it's not gonna set up, but you don't have very much time after you set this pressure up. After you set this up, it's gonna start hardening right away, because it hardens under pressure, not under air, okay? What I like to do is I like to move this up and down, and I like to get this to where it's about straight here, okay? And I look at my teeth mesh right here. I got 3 teeth engaged here, and I got 3 teeth engaged here, almost a 4th coming in, okay? So if you set this thing like way up like that and try to set the timing, it's not gonna be right. And see, your mesh is way off. You want to still, even though we're setting gear lash in between these two things, we still want our mesh to be correct too. So this right here is, it's still loose. It's still loose, I can move it all around, but I wanna try to see, I wanna make sure that I can get it right here, I can get them meshed evenly between these 2 gears, okay? So, the next thing I do is I take my tone wheel, put a little bit of blue on there. Sometimes it's hard to get on there, sometimes it goes right on. There's a pin right here. Well, here we go. First try, look at that. So what Cummins tells you to do is they say to bottom it out. They want you to bottom it out and then one flat. I don't do that. I feel like it's too tight. I want it a little looser than that. So what I do is I just take a socket, tighten it up all the way to where I feel like it bottoms out with a socket by hand, like that, and I leave it. That's how I do it, okay? So next thing we're gonna do is put our feeler gauges in here. Cummins wants you to use a 4/1000 feeler gauge on each side. If you look in here, it shows you where to put the feeler gauges. There's a line here. It actually shows you where to put the feeler gauges. Just gonna move this around like I like it. They're pretty rough to get in there sometimes, pretty hard sometimes. See, I'm already a little too tight already. That's why I don't like to do it like too tight, because I'm not able to move that cam here like I want to. Loosen up just a little bit. Okay, got that one in. going to stick this one in. All right, we got that one in. Now, this is how I do my cam gear. You don't have to do it. You can do it how you want. This is how I do it. So I look at my mesh. I got three good meshes down here. I got 3 good meshes down here. And I'm relatively pretty close as far as depth on my gear. I can bring it up a little bit more if I wanted to. Okay, that's probably good right there. Now, this is what I do next. I set my idler, which this is not Cummins procedure. I set my idler first. I got that in the wrong hole. That's what she said. Okay. Now we got her in there. All right, so what I do is I come down and I pull this down. Like I said, this is not how Cummins tells you to do it. And I go ahead and tighten these up. Okay. Now this camshaft is not going to move when you're pulling down like this, especially when your bolt's pretty tight, right? So I want to make sure this feeler gauge is tight, and it's pretty tight. I can still move it back and forth, but it's tight, okay? And I feel this one, see, this one's going to be looser all the time. It's pretty loose. So what I do next is, now that I got that one kind of knocked down, I'm not going to torque it yet. I got it tight so that it's not going to move. Then I get my torque wrench. Your torque on your cam gear is 75 plus 120, and they say to start with 22, but we'll just go slow, hit 22 first. How about that? Get this set up here. Gotta set this thing still or it doesn't like to work correctly. Okay, we're on again. Okay. All right, 75 foot-pounds. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and tighten her up a little bit. I'm gonna push down on this gear. And I like to put a little bit of, just a little bit. And when I mean a little bit, I mean a little bit. Cummins tells you not to do this, okay? But I do. This is how I've always made my gear lash, where it don't sound like it's coming apart in front. Like I said, you can do it by the book, do it how you want, and do it 6 times, or you can do it this way. So I just give it a little bit against that gear. Snug it up a little bit. Okay, so. Oops, I slipped. There we go. Come on. Okay. Now we got it set pretty much where we want to be. Now see, my feeler gauge is tight now, see? I can pull it out if I want to, okay? But it's pretty tight. So we got this one that's tight, and we got this one that's tight. So, now I'm gonna go ahead and torque it all the way. Well, there's 22, guys, so we got to 22. Book says to go to 22 first, we got there. So now we're gonna go to 75, okay? I just felt it move, so we're compacting now. Now you'll see that be green. We're at 76. Okay. Now, like I said, my feeler gauge, I can pull it out, but I'm not going to pull it out yet. That's really good. It's tight, really tight in there, but I can still get it out. If you can't get it out, it's probably too tight. You just smashed your feeler gauge. So you want to be real light on that screwdriver. All that screwdriver is just to hold you in place while you get a little bit of a bite on that bolt. So now we're going to change our torque wrench to 120. This thing's got so many settings on it. It almost ties your shoes. All right. So we're going to go 120 on this thing now. Keep that sucker straight so you don't slip off. All right, we're good. Went to 124. So now we can check our feeler gauges. Now, see, this is about how much you want it to be on the pull. I can grab this thing and get it out, okay? If you can't get that out of there, you're too tight. And I can grab this one and pull it out, see? It's still tight, but I can get it out. If they won't come out, you better just start all over again because you're gonna rip your feeler gauge off. So now, this is relatively tight. So what I do next, this is a little extra precaution. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure these are real tight, these bottom two. And then I'm going to pull this bottom one out, or the top one, sorry. Sorry, I don't know up from down today, but we'll figure it out. So the torque on these bolts are 22, on your idler, is 22 foot-pounds with 60 degrees yield. Okay, so make sure this is clean. Now I'm going to put a little bit of blue, if I can find my blue. She fell down, guys. Hold on. Well, I got dirty today. So, anyways, a little blue on here. I'm gonna set this in here. Gonna run it down lightly like that. Loosen this one. Put in the blue. We want to do one at a time so that we keep the position of that gear like where it's supposed to be. I'll have to run this one down and tighten it because that's the only one holding the other side. Tighten it too. I might have to back it off one at a time, but it'll be tight. Put that off a little bit. Like I said, when Cummins came out with this procedure, I don't know how many years ago it was when these engines came out. The 871 dual cam had another gear on it too. You had an injector gear and by itself, and then you had a valve gear. And the 871, it was complicated too, but it didn't seem to be as complicated as the single cam as far as getting the lash correct. They'd still make noise even though you did it by how the book told you to do it, which you did it by how the book told you to do it, but it still made noise. So this is what I found over the years to do myself. Okay, we're already on 22. So we started with this bolt. This is how I do this. You can bleep bloop on the comments if you don't like it or tell me what you think's better. We might try it out. We might give her a whirl. There's 22, so I'm gonna back this one off now. See, I'm past 22. And then I'm gonna go ahead and hit 22 now. Okay, I'm gonna back this one off. it wasn't 22, so I didn't have to back it off. And then we're gonna hit 22. Okay, now we're gonna go 60 degrees. It's torque to yield, so we torque first, and then we're gonna stretch that old little bolt out to 60 degrees. Now, if you didn't have a fancy torque angle torque wrench, you could do this with marks, and you could put a mark right there and go over, go over 2 flats to make 60 degrees, because there's 360 degrees in a circle. So you divide those up by how many flats you get, and you can put a mark here and put a mark there, and you can still torque it however this just makes it more accurate. It's easier. You don't got to pull all that stuff out. So I'm gonna go 60 degrees now. You'll hear a beep and chirp and chatter. There she goes. It also tells you when you're done on these torque wrenches. It'll tell you what torque you're at when you're done. That's the 57.1. So even though we were torque to yield, it'll tell you what you ended up as far as torque goes. They usually are pretty close to each other. Do 60 on this last one. Okay. See, that one says 54. Okay. So we are done. So right now, if you had a high performance engine, you'd be backing your springs back off and tighten them with a little tiny 10mm wrench that you barely be able to fit in here, and you'd be backing those 2 springs on each side, backing them back off to where they could get the mesh out of those gears. So if you want to see this right here, there's not a lot of play. You just barely click on it, And I want to tell you something else that I wanted to mention. If you look down here, a lot of guys take this whole harmonic balancer pulley off. On the single cans, Cummins designed it to where you just get you a 13 in here, and you take and you loosen these 2 nuts. They're studs, and this cover is built to where you loosen them up and you can just pull that cover straight out. So you don't have to pull the harmonic balancer on this engine to pull the cover. Okay, and if you're just setting timing, you don't have to pull all this stuff either. I've seen a lot of guys pull the engine completely down on both sides. That's not needed. It's just more work. Now, if you're doing, entire engine build and pulling everything completely down from the block, yeah. But on these newer engines, they made it to where you don't have to do all those things. So I can squeeze that gear in here and get it in here. So if you were on a high performance engine, this would be the time when you'd be backing that off. What we're gonna do now, we're gonna stick the cover on, and I'll stick the cover on, do the overhead, and then I'm gonna do a startup with the cover on. I'm just gonna put the cover on, put a couple bolts up, and go ahead and start the engine up so I can hear how the gear sounds. If it sounds really smooth, I don't hear no clicking, clattering, racking, then I know that we're good. If I hear it sound like it's coming apart, then we got to redo it. So this is how I do it. I figured I'd show you a video on how I do it. Throughout the years, I've tried different ways, and this is completely opposite how they showed me in school. So in school, they wanted you to do this one first and then that one. I always had problems keeping this gear tight. So that's why I started doing like this, and then using the cam up against the idler so that it would make it tighter. Because my always problem is it's always too loose, and it just when you start it up, just like that. Okay. I mean, identical. I'm not gonna do it again, but that's exactly what it sounds like. So, anyways, guys, like I said, I'm gonna set the overhead. We had to replace a rocker arm, number 5 exhaust rocker arm. That's also an AFA rocker arm. I showed you in a previous video why we had to replace it. The cam lobe was bad, and we also had to replace the camshaft also. So we're gonna go ahead and do an overhead, set all our valves, set all our jakes, spin it over a couple times, put our cover on, and we'll give her a fire up and make sure she sounds good. And that's about it, guys.